Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we have another round of Ag in the Courtroom with Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. Several issues have been working their way through the courts that could have an impact on the farm and ranch. We'll also have updates from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Grain Sorghum, along with the weekly look from Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat. Online at kswheat.com. In agricultural news from agview.net, China shook up the U.S. feed grain export market over the last year, purchasing massive quantities of U.S. soybeans, sorghum, and corn. A new report out from CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division finds the outlook for continued U.S. grain exports to China remains strong, primarily due to the projected growth in pork production. However, the current U.S. grain run has entered a new phase of market by significant price volatility, and China leveraging that volatility to its advantage. China's heightened demand resulted in higher grain prices that peaked in May and then been extremely volatile since. A period of elevated price volatility coupled with the ongoing inverted futures curve means that grain elevators and merchandisers will require capital discipline and excess liquidity. Well, USDA did estimate 92.7 million acres of corn have been planted in the U.S. for 2021. That's 2% up from last year. The June 30th acreage report also estimates soybeans nationwide 87.6 million acres, up 5% from last year. All wheat planted acres for 2021 estimated 46.7 million acres, up 5% from last year. Now, this, though, does represent the fourth lowest all wheat planted acres since records began back in 1919. And all cotton acres planted 11.7 million acres, 3% below a year ago. And the Federal Trade Commission has voted to strengthen its enforcement of the Made in the USA standard. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack said American consumers depend upon accurate, transparent labels to obtain important information about the food they consume, and the FTC requires products to display a country of origin. However, if the products are imported and produced in the U.S., they can display the Made in the USA label. So USDA announced last year its intention to conduct rulemaking to address the concerns that the voluntary product of the USA label may confuse consumers about the origin of their food products. Following the effort, Vilsack said USDA initiating a top to bottom review of the product of the USA label. He said the review will help determine what the label means to consumers. Find more ag news at agview.net. Stay with us. Dr. Roger McEowen. We return. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, But how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the soybean checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
And joining us once again for another Ag in the Courtroom segment is Dr. Roger McCullen from the Washburn School of Law. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning, Ken. How are you today?
Good. It's hard to believe we're already past the halfway point of 2021. Still doesn't mean that things have backed off when it comes to agriculture and the court system. And a couple of topics I think are very interesting. I want to talk about. One is the American Rescue Plan, and you have some thoughts in really digging into that. It looks like that we may have a case of the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, the courts have had some thoughts on this recently. There are two programs in ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, that the courts have looked at recently, and they have put both of these on hold as constitutionally defective, as being racially discriminatory. One of those is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and that fund was set up such that only during the first 21 days of disbursement of fund monies, grant monies from the fund, socially disadvantaged restaurants could have funds distributed to them. Everybody could apply, but funds would only be distributed to those that were majority minority owned. Well, we had a restaurant owned 50% by a husband and wife. Husband and wife owned 100%. Husband was white and his wife was Hispanic. She didn't own more than 50%. They were deemed ineligible during that distribution period, that early 21-day period. And so they challenged this as saying, well, the way you have defined socially disadvantaged for purposes of getting priority is racially discriminatory. And the court said, you're right. And the Sixth Circuit, United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, said it's unconstitutional as racially discriminatory. And so it is on hold as it pending further appeals, basically, as well put it. The other one is the USDA loan forgiveness program, which is in another section of ARPA. And of course, that's important to agriculture. And one of the classifications in terms of the way they dispersed funds in that, they said it had to be women-operated farms and veterans operated, and then those operated by socially disadvantaged farmers. Well, the way that the rules define socially disadvantaged farmers was done on a racial basis, and it excluded all white farmers. You couldn't be socially disadvantaged if you were white. And the federal district court in that one said that's race-based, and they entered a universal restraining order stopping USDA from dispersing funds while that goes through the court system. So, the lesson on these, the big takeaway is you can't discriminate based on race. And even in the USDA case, in the restaurant case, they said you can't discriminate based on gender. And so to give women a preference, you can't do that either. So just, Lady Justice is supposed to have a blindfold on, and the government, when they disperse funds like this, is supposed to have a blindfold on, and they didn't do it in these situations, and the court stopped it.
All right, interesting stuff. I know both of those topics have been in the news recently. Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law is joining us. More to talk about, so let's take a quick break. We'll come back and continue our discussion in a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association. supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
And our guest is Dr. Roger McEowen, another Ag in the Courtroom segment of what going on. And next topic, Roger, is it's not necessarily a Kansas focus, but I think it's a focus on agriculture, and that's some more developments in the public trust doctrine. And you and I have talked about that before in Iowa, and that can have implications for production agriculture.
Yeah, and just by way of review, the public trust doctrine is actually pretty old. It goes back to Old England, and it came over in the United States and found its way in the common law in the United States. And the states have many states have statutory versions of the public trust doctrine that put borders and boundaries upon it. What it is originally was a doctrine, a legal doctrine that was utilized, saying that the seas could not be privately owned in the intertidal waters. So you can't claim that for your own. That's to be used as the public to transport goods across and people across, and commercial fishing in certain areas, that it cannot be privatized. Well, that there is a legal theory out there, and there are theorists that have tried to expand that doctrine to waters that would go through a farm, to streams that a farmer would irrigate out of, saying we've got to keep a certain amount of water in the stream to protect an endangered species, for example. Can even apply to oil and gas exploration to limit. And basically the expansion of this would say that these natural resources are owned by the public, and so we should conserve those. Well, when you expand the doctrine like that, it impacts private activities on land. And of course, that's the big asset for farmers and ranchers. And so farmers and ranchers are right in the crosshair of any expanded doctrine. There's been a battle in Iowa for a good 10 years or so, an attempt by certain groups and certain individuals to expand the public trust theory to apply to certain farming practices that would result, they think, in the reduction of phosphorus and various nitrates, finding its way into a water course that would then flow to Des Moines, the urban area there, and cause more. Their argument is it causes more efforts and more money to be expended to clean up the water so that the urban area in Des Moines can drink it. And so they wanted the public trust doctrine expanded because they thought, well, the legislature is not taking action. We're not getting what we want through the legislature, so we're going to force this through the courts with an expanded doctrine. And that hit the Iowa Supreme Court middle of June. And the Iowa Supreme Court said, no, we do have a version of this in the code in Iowa, and it's very narrow, and we're not going to expand it. It's up to the legislature to make those decisions. They said this is a public policy decision. And simply because your members, they told the plaintiffs, feelings, they might feel better if the river were cleaned up and their drinking water would cost less. That's a policy issue to be decided by elected representatives, not by the court. So the court refused to expand the doctrine. And that's the correct result. That really is a policy decision as to what we're going to do with water quality in the state, for example. The legislature sets the policy, and then you have the Department of Agriculture and various other departments that implement the rules in accordance with that policy. So that was a good lesson that the court towed the line there and didn't cross into the legislative branch of government.
All right, and quickly, some more developments when it comes to the federal land and some taking cases.
Yeah, there was a really important Supreme Court opinion. And of course, in late July or late June, right at the end of their term, the Supreme Court kicks out what many of us view as the most important opinions of the whole term. They just come in rapid fire. And we had a Supreme Court opinion actually involving a law and a regulation that resulted from the efforts of what Cesar Chavez was doing in the late 60s and early 70s in California. And California came up with a law, left it up to the Labor Department to regulate this, to come up with the implementing regulations. And what it did is it gave union organizers the right to come on a farm's premises for up to 3 hours a day for up to 120 days a year to organize those farms' workers. And what you had in this situation were a couple of farms, a strawberry farm in North California, another farm in Fresno, and union organizers came on at 5 a.m, had bullhorns and were yelling things and trying to organize the workers, really disrupting what was going on at the farm. And the court said a lot of the workers just got fed up with it and they went home. Some of them did pay attention to what the union workers were saying, but it was really disruptive to the businesses. And so they sued, saying, look, when you give someone access to our property like that without notice, and they can come on and do whatever they want to do, you've really taken a property right from us. And they said it's an easement that you gave them, and we're not getting any benefit in return. We're not getting any regulatory benefit from this at all. And that was the issue before the Supreme Court. Is that a taking of a private property right requiring compensation? And the court said, yeah, that's unconstitutional. It's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. That is a taking of an easement. And so very, very big case. Of course, it impacts California directly, but anywhere you've got a statute like that, the court is saying if there's no benefit flowing back to the owner, what the government has done is unconstitutionally taken your property. It requires the government to pay for it.
All right, Roger, if folks want to learn more about these topics we've talked about and other things on your blog, how can they access that?
Through the homepage of my website, which is washburnlaw.edu/Walter, WALTR, or just a general internet search for Washburn Walter. And they can find the blog on the homepage. Down the left-hand side is the agricultural law and taxation blog, part of the Law Professor Blog Network. And there's a way to sign up for an email alert when I add a new article to the blog too.
Very good. Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. He is a tax and ag law specialist there. So stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
If you had a get-together over the July 4th weekend, what protein did you have as the star of your cookout? Beef, pork, chicken, even fish? Whatever it was, soy likely helped put it on the table. When soybeans head to a crush facility, 80% of each bean becomes soybean meal, which is a ground flake or chip-like texture. It serves as a crucial feed source for many animals. In fact, a whopping 97% of all soybean meal produced is manufactured into animal and livestock feed. The protein content of soybean meal, around 44%, makes it a great supplement protein to feed our favorite forms of animal protein. In the 2018-19 marketing year, 34.9 million short tons of meal was fed to animal agriculture divided among poultry, swine, dairy, and others. The Kansas Soybean Commission and United Soybean Board continually fund market development and research into the benefits and further potential of quality, sustainably grown soybean meal. You can check out that work at kansassoybeans.org/animal agriculture or soymeal.org. Next time you put an animal protein on your plate, remember the role soybeans play in making quality feed.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The Kansas Department of Agriculture is excited to invite you back to Manhattan this summer for our 6th annual Kansas Governor's Summit on Agricultural Growth on Thursday, August 26th. Traditionally, this event has been a time when we have brought all of the industry sectors together in one place with one goal, growing Kansas agriculture. Last year, we held our entire event online, and we did learn some valuable lessons from that experience, so this year's summit is a blend of in-person events and online meetings. The summit main event on August 26th and the social the evening before will be held at the Manhattan Conference Center, and we encourage you to join us for a day of meaningful discussion about the future of Kansas agriculture. Last year's virtual summit was able to reach Kansas farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses in a new way, especially for the sector breakout session discussions. So those sessions are again being held via Zoom, with a strong emphasis on collaborative discussion. They began in early July and will continue up until the August summit event. A full schedule of the sector breakout sessions, along with registration links for each individual Zoom meeting, can be found on the summit webpage. There is no cost to attend any of the Ag Growth Summit meetings or events, but it's important that you register to get login information for the virtual sector sessions, and so we can provide adequate materials and meals for the in-person events. Registration has begun for all sessions on our website at agriculture.ks.gov/summit, along with agendas and overviews of the ag sectors. Whether in person or online, KDA remains committed to one purpose: to serve, promote, and grow the state's largest industry. Please join the KDA team as the Kansas agriculture community works together to grow smarter, grow stronger, and grow Kansas.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
For Kansas farmers who are familiar with growing grain sorghum, exports can make up a critical part of growers' bottom lines. That's why there's a whole lot of optimism as sorghum planting concludes. According to the USDA's Economic Research Service in May, U.S. agricultural exports in fiscal year 2021 are projected at $164 billion, up $7 billion from the February forecast, led by increases in corn, soybeans, and livestock, poultry, dairy products, as well as grain sorghum. China is forecast to remain the largest market for U.S. agricultural exports in fiscal year 2021, followed by Canada and Mexico. Fiscal year 2021 U.S. grain and feed exports are forecast at a record $41.2 billion, up $3.4 billion from the February forecast driven by corn and sorghum. Sorghum exports specifically are forecasted at $2.4 billion, up $300 million from February's projection on both higher unit volumes and volumes driven by demand from China. Both factors point to increased production of grain sorghum this fall. And for growers choosing to irrigate their grain sorghum, you can optimize your yield by keeping in mind a few key points, according to Dr. Brett Bean, Agronomy Director with the Sorghum Checkoff, such as keeping soil moisture maintained above 30% to a soil depth of 3 feet, using irrigation early in the growth stages to establish uniform stand, and the most critical time to irrigate when soil moisture is lacking, the boot stage, when head emerges at the top of the plant prior to blooming and grain set. Trials over the year have demonstrated how adequate soil water at this stage will greatly enhance yield. For more growing tips, visit Dr. Bean's Agronomy Insights at sorghumcheckoff.com. And for Kansas Grain Sorghum, this is Adam York.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
The Beef Improvement Federation presented 2 Kansas ranches with national awards during the group's annual convention in Des Moines, Iowa. W&S Ranch of Smith Center was named BIF Commercial Producer of the Year, and Cow Camp Ranch near Lost Springs was awarded BIF Seed Stock Producer of the Year. W&S Ranch is owned by Richard, Kenton and Deborah, Michael and LaDonna, and Philip and Jessica Weltmer. Managed on a daily basis by Philip and Jessica, the ranch encompasses a commercial cow herd, a small registered Angus herd, a feed yard, and a farming operation. Cow Camp Ranch is owned by the Bruner family. Kent Bruner and his son Nolan manage the day-to-day activities on the ranch. The registered cow herd was founded in 1969 using some of the original Simmental genetics that were imported into the U.S. Today, the herd consists of registered Simmental, Sim Angus, and Angus cows. BIF also presented Galen Fink of Randolph with the Pioneer Award. This award recognizes individuals who have made lasting contributions to the improvement of beef cattle, honoring those who have had a major role in the acceptance of performance reporting and documentation as the primary means to make genetic change.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Good morning. I'm Eric Osterhaus with Pinion Ag, a division of K-Coe Isom. Well, our much anticipated June 30th acreage report has come and gone, and once again we were handed somewhat of a surprise as acre numbers came in on the lower side of our expectations. We expect the market to continue to be volatile moving forward, as it seems that the market wants to hang on every weather forecast, even just a change to that forecast. We have a long way to go till our corn and soybean harvest, and really the traders have been very willing participants here so far, both on the positive and the negative side as it suits them. Neither corn or soybeans have much wiggle room in regards to yield this year if we want to maintain a comfortable ending stocks number. And the general belief that is that until more is known in regards to crop size, the breaks will likely appear to be buying opportunities for end users, and the bears may have a pretty hard time holding on to their position if any bullish signs appear. One crop that is not in the same place as corn or soybeans is our wheat crop. Wheat harvest is proceeding with reports coming in from several areas showing a good yield, if not great, in some locations. It appears yield has been running above expectations, but test weight and protein have generally been lacking. There may be some good marketing opportunities for those lucky folks there who managed to raise both high protein wheat as well as good test weight. As always, if you have any questions on these or any markets, please give us a call at 888-452-8751. Have a productive day.
Well, that's our show this week. We're already in the second half of the year. That means getting closer to county fair time. So we encourage you to go and support those young folks who have been learning and working hard on their projects. It's also a good time to be social with your neighbor. You may have not have seen them for quite a while. So be social with us at KansasAgReport.net or our social media channels. Thanks for watching. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.